Hey everyone, and welcome. Get ready, because today we're diving deep into something truly amazing.
Oh, it is. It is.
It's the world where AI and the Internet of Things, the IoT, are coming together.
Yeah.
They're reshaping industries. And based on this report, we've got AI and IoT.pdf. It's fascinating stuff.
It's really incredible because you don't see these two technologies just side by side anymore. They're
Yeah.
actually like weaving together like threads in a fabric, creating something totally new.
Yeah, it's not just an addition, it's like a fusion.
Exactly.
And it's creating these incredible results. It's almost like I keep thinking of it like, watching a nervous system evolve in real time.
hmm
So think of all the sensors and devices out there, right? Collecting data everywhere. That's your IoT network,
Okay.
your nervous system.
Yeah.
And then the AI, what's that?
The brain.
It's the brain,
Mhm.
sifting through all that data, find the patterns that we as humans would probably miss.
Oh, absolutely. And making decisions that can optimize entire systems.
Give me an example. What's something concrete that really illustrates this?
Okay, so imagine a factory floor, right?
Okay.
Where AI is using sensor data to predict like equipment failures, maybe like 3 days in advance.
Wow, that's incredible. So instead of these like costly reactive repairs,
Yeah.
you've got this proactive maintenance schedule that could save a company potentially millions.
Absolutely millions. And that's a huge shift.
Yeah, that is. But it goes beyond just factories, right?
Oh, absolutely. This convergence, it's not just one thing, it's multidimensional. It's the data itself, it's the processing power that we have now, and it's how that leads to this amazing automation.
So it's not just 1 + 1 = 2. It's like this exponential growth because of all these things coming together.
Yeah.
Okay, but help me break this down a little bit because we've got the data from the IoT. That's great.
Right.
But how do we make sense of it all? How do we turn it into something actionable?
That is where it gets like really interesting. Think of it like the AI IoT infrastructure as this three-tiered system.
Okay.
You've got the edge, the fog, and the cloud.
Oh, I've heard these terms. I'm still not quite clear on what they all mean. Can you break that down a little bit?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So each of these plays a specific role in how data is processed and how those smart decisions are made.
Okay, so the edge, that's where the action happens closest to where the data is being collected, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, but why not just send everything to the cloud? We've got powerful cloud systems.
Yeah.
Why do we need this edge layer?
So that is the trade-off, right? Sending all that data to the cloud, it takes time, bandwidth, and that creates lag. And the edge is all about real-time decisions. Think self-driving cars, precision manufacturing. You need those decisions to happen like that.
Got it.
Right there, right then.
So it's about choosing the right tool for the job.
Yeah.
Sometimes the cloud's the best option. Sometimes the edge is better.
Exactly. Striking that balance.
But within those domains, edge, fog, and cloud, what are the layers? What's actually happening within each of those?
Oh, that's a good question. It starts with what we call the data ingestion layer.
Okay.
So just imagine like a fire hose of data, information pouring in from like countless devices, right?
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is. And that data ingestion layer manages that flood.
Okay, so it's kind of like the traffic cop that's directing all this data.
That's a great analogy. And then it goes on to the processing pipeline.
Oh, yeah, the processing
So
pipeline.
now you have to turn that raw data into something that's actually usable, insightful.
Right, make it make sense.
Yeah, make it make sense. And there are different types of processing, right? You've got batch processing,
Yeah.
like analyzing a whole library at once.
Okay.
And then stream processing,
Yeah.
like reading a book as someone's writing it.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, making decisions on the fly. Both of them are critical for AI IoT.
Okay, so it's about choosing the right processing method depending on what you're trying to do with the data.
Exactly.
Okay, and then of course you need somewhere to store all this data, right?
Absolutely.
Data storage is huge.
It is. And here again, it's all about balance.
Okay.
You need speed for all that recent data, the stuff you need to access frequently.
Yeah.
And then you need cost effectiveness for archiving all the older data.
Right.
It's kind of like a library, prioritizing access to the books that are borrowed all the time.
I like that.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Okay, and then there's the network itself, right?
Yeah.
The network connecting everything together. That's where 5G is a game changer.
Right. It's like upgrading from dial-up to broadband. Like the
man.
entire Internet of Things.
So it's unlocking these possibilities that we couldn't even imagine a few years ago.
Totally. But it's also important to think about the security challenges.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's something we can't ignore.
No, no. We have to like weave security into every single layer. So
Yeah.
starting with like authenticating devices,
Yeah.
making sure they are who they say they are, all the way to protecting those AI models themselves.
Right, because those AI models are valuable.
They are.
People could try to steal them, manipulate them.
Absolutely. And speaking of security, I was reading in the report that
Yeah.
the average security breach in AI-IoT systems
Hmm.
costs over $4.5 million.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
It is.
That's a huge vulnerability.
And the threats, they're constantly changing, you know.
Right. It's not a static problem.
No, it's this dynamic landscape. So that's why we need things like strong encryption,
Yeah.
zero trust models, you know, where we're constantly verifying every user, every device.
So it's not just assuming that someone's trustworthy because they're already inside the network.
Yeah.
You're constantly checking.
Always checking.
Yeah.
And then network segmentation, making sure that, you know, if one part of the network gets compromised, the whole thing doesn't go down.
It's like having multiple security checkpoints.
That's it.
Instead of just guarding the front door.
Yeah.
Okay, but all this data, all this processing power, it would be kind of meaningless if we're not actually getting insights from it, right?
No, absolutely. And that's where the real-time analytics comes in.
Oh, yeah. That's the good stuff. That's what we want to get to.
That's where the magic happens.
It's like turning all those raw ingredients,
Yeah.
into this amazing gourmet meal.
That's it.
Okay, so walk me through those different levels of analysis. I know there are different levels, right?
Oh, there are. So the first one, it's called descriptive analytics.
Okay.
And that's like taking inventory. It tells you what's happening right now.
Okay, so it's like having a live dashboard showing you all the vital signs of your system.
Exactly. And then you can go a little deeper, right?
Okay.
That's where you get diagnostic analytics.
Oh.
It helps you understand why something's happening.
So you're not just seeing that, oh, the temperature's rising.
Uh-huh.
You're understanding why the temperature's rising.
Yeah, it's like having a detective on the case, figuring out why a machine's malfunctioning or why energy consumption's spiked.
Okay, I like that. So first you know what's happening, then you know why it's happening.
That's it. And then
What's next?
we go to predictive analytics,
Okay.
using the past to see the future.
Ah, fortune telling with data.
Yes, data fortune telling. So it's using machine learning
Yeah.
to forecast what's likely to happen next. So imagine knowing like 2 days in advance that a piece of equipment is going to fail.
That's amazing.
Right. Less downtime, potentially saving a ton of money.
Huge cost savings, yeah.
That's predictive analytics.
Okay, so how do they actually analyze this data in real time? You've got so much information coming in. How do they make sense of it all on the fly?
So they're using a bunch of different techniques like stream processing.
Okay.
That's where you analyze data on the fly as it's coming in. And then complex event processing.
Okay, what's that?
So that's kind of like connecting the dots between events. You know, events that might seem totally unrelated at first.
Oh, okay. So it's like seeing the bigger picture that you might miss if you're just looking at individual data points.
Exactly. And it's so important for, you know, things like in manufacturing, detecting quality issues
Okay.
before they become, you know, major problems.
Catching them early.
Exactly. And it's almost like it's like having an air traffic controller,
Uh-huh.
managing the flow of information and making sure everything runs smoothly.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Mm.
A lot of analogies.
Yeah. Analogies are good, but we need to get into some of these specific techniques, right?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
To really understand like how this stuff works.
Okay, so let's talk about machine learning. Everyone's talking about machine learning these days.
Number one.
What exactly is it? How does it actually work?
Okay, so the basic idea is that we're teaching computers to learn from data without being explicitly programmed, right?
So instead of giving them a set of rules to follow, you're giving them data and letting them figure out the rules themselves.
That's it. And there are all these different flavors of machine learning.
Oh yeah, I've heard of supervised learning and unsupervised learning.
Exactly. And then you've got deep learning, which is all the rage right now.
Wow.
And they all have their strengths, and they're used for different types of analysis.
So it's about choosing the right tool for the job, just like with everything else in AI-IoT.
Yeah.
The report actually highlighted anomaly detection as a really key application of AI and IoT. Can you explain what that is and why it's so important?
Sure. So imagine you've got this security system
Okay.
that can spot suspicious activity
Uh-huh.
before anything actually bad happens.
I like that.
Right. That's anomaly detection. It's all about identifying these patterns in the data
Okay.
that deviate from the norm. And those deviations, those anomalies, could be like a red flag.
So in a factory, it could be a machine that's about to fail.
Yeah. In a security system, It could be an unauthorized access attempt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the faster you can detect these anomalies, the faster you can respond and prevent them from becoming major problems.
So early detection is key.
Absolutely. So we've talked about real-time data, analysis, anomaly detection, but there's another level, right?
Okay, what's next?
It's called, think of it this way.
Okay.
Descriptive analytics tells you what's happening. Diagnostic tells you why it's happening. Predictive analytics, that's the fortune telling, tells you what might happen next.
Okay.
But then there's prescriptive analytics.
Okay.
And that's where it gets really exciting.
Okay, what does prescriptive analytics do?
It tells you what to do.
Ah, okay. So it's not just about understanding the data, it's about using that data to make recommendations.
Exactly. It's giving you that recommended course of action.
Yeah.
Based on all that data, all that analysis.
Okay, give me an example of that.
Sure. So imagine a building management system, right?
It not only, predicts energy consumption, which is great, but it also actually adjusts like the HVAC system and the lighting to optimize energy use.
Wow.
So you could be saving like 15% to 25% on energy costs.
That's amazing. So it's like having a personal energy advisor for your building.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here,
Mhm.
going from like the basic architecture of how these systems work to the power of real-time analytics.
Mhm.
But how does this all come together in practice?
Yeah.
What does this actually look like in the real world?
Okay, so that's where we move from theory to reality, which is what's really exciting.
Yeah, let's get concrete.
Let's get concrete. To really understand the potential, we got to look at some examples, real world examples of how this is already changing things.
Okay, I'm all ears. Hit me with some examples.
All right, so in this report, they've got this a really diverse set of case studies.
Okay.
They cover like manufacturing, healthcare, agriculture, smart cities.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
So it's not just limited to one specific industry.
Not at all, no.
Wow, that's really exciting.
It is. It is. So, should we start with manufacturing?
Yeah, let's start there. I'm always fascinated by how technology changes the way we make things.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so there's this case study. A smart factory
Okay.
that implemented an AI-IoT system to optimize, like their whole production line.
The entire production line.
Yeah, and they were monitoring, get this, over 50,000 data points in real time.
50,000 data points? That's a lot of data.
It's a lot.
How do they even manage that?
So they used, it was a combination of edge computing
Okay.
and cloud-based analytics
Okay, so using both of those together.
to handle that massive amount of data. So the edge devices were collecting the data, pre-processing it, and then sending like the really important stuff to the cloud for further analysis and decision-making.
Okay, so it's like a team effort. The edge is doing some of the work, the cloud's doing some of the work.
Exactly.
And they're working together seamlessly.
Yes.
So what was the outcome of all this? What kind of impact did it have on the factory?
Well, by optimizing those 50,000 data points, they were able to improve their yield by 15%. That means they're getting more usable product from the same amount of raw materials.
Ah, so that's a direct impact on their bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're making more money.
And they're saving money because they also reduced energy consumption by 25%.
Wow, so they're not only making more products, but they're also doing it more sustainably.
Exactly. And it was all happening autonomously,
Really?
The AI-IoT system was constantly adapting to changing conditions,
In real time.
in real time.
Wow, that's really impressive. So how did they get from a traditional factory to this smart, self-optimizing system?
Well, it wasn't like an overnight thing, but they started with a pilot project focusing on just one area of the production line.
Okay, so they kind of dipped their toes in the water before jumping in head first.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted to test the technology, see how it worked, gather some data, and refine their approach before they scaled it up to the entire factory.
That's a smart approach.
Yeah.
What were some of the challenges they faced during that implementation?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones was integrating this new system, with their existing equipment.
Right, because you can't just rip and replace everything overnight.
Exactly. And a lot of the equipment was older, not designed to be connected to the internet.
Legacy systems.
Yeah, legacy systems. So they had to develop custom interfaces, integration solutions to bridge that gap between the old and the new. It was like building a bridge between two different worlds.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. And another challenge was, getting the workforce on board.
Oh, yeah, the human element.
The human element,
Yeah.
exactly. Because change can be hard.
People are resistant to change sometimes.
They are, especially when it involves such a fundamental shift, in how things are done.
So how did they overcome that challenge?
Well, they invested in training programs, to equip their employees with the skills they needed to work effectively with these new systems.
Okay, so it's not just about the technology, it's about the people.
It's about the people. And they also had to address concerns about job security, because some people were worried that the automation would lead to job losses.
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
It is.
So how did they address that?
They reassured their employees that the goal wasn't to replace jobs,
Okay.
but to actually augment human capabilities, to create new opportunities for skill development and career advancement.
So it's about finding ways for humans and machines to work together, each leveraging their unique strengths.
Exactly. And they emphasized that, the human element was still crucial for all those tasks that require like creativity, critical thinking, complex decision making.
Right, because those are things that machines, at least for now, are not very good at.
Exactly.
So it's about finding that right balance between automation and human expertise.
Finding that balance, yes. And by addressing these challenges head on, they were able to successfully implement the system and get those impressive results we talked about earlier.
So it's really a combination of smart technology and smart implementation.
Exactly.
And that leads to success.
It does.
This is just one example
Just one example.
of how AI and IoT are working together.
Yeah.
There are so many other applications and use cases emerging every day. It's incredible to think about the possibilities.
It is incredible, isn't it? It's really mind-blowing.
It is. But let's move on to another industry.
Okay.
What about healthcare?
Okay, healthcare. This is where it gets really personal,
Yeah.
The report highlights a hospital network that implemented an intelligent patient monitoring system.
Okay, using AI and IoT.
Exactly.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more about how they use these technologies to actually improve patient care.
So they integrated data from like all these different sources, bedside monitors, wearable devices, electronic health records.
Oh, wow. So they're getting a really complete picture of the patient's health.
A 360-degree view.
It's like having a digital twin
That's a great way to put it.
of each patient, constantly monitoring their vital signs and everything else.
That's it, yeah.
And then they're using AI algorithms to actually analyze this data.
Yes, to detect those subtle patterns that, might indicate that a patient's condition is deteriorating.
So they're not just reacting to symptoms.
No,
They're actually predicting potential problems.
exactly, before they even happen. And that is the key to improving outcomes, potentially saving lives.
Okay, so what were some of the key outcomes, the results they saw from implementing the system?
Well, they saw a 35% reduction in, code blue events.
Oh, wow. Those are serious medical emergencies.
They are, when you need immediate resuscitation.
So that suggests that they're able to intervene earlier and prevent those really critical situations.
Exactly.
Okay, that's great.
They also saw a 48% decrease in ICU readmissions.
Oh, wow. So patients are recovering more effectively and they're staying healthier after they leave the hospital.
Exactly. And maybe most importantly, they improved early detection of sepsis.
Sepsis, that's a really serious condition.
It is life-threatening.
And early detection is crucial.
Absolutely. They improved early detection by 42%.
Wow, those are some incredible results.
They are. It shows what's possible when you bring together AI and IoT in healthcare.
Yeah, that's really inspiring. But I imagine there were some unique challenges, right,
Oh, for sure.
in implementing a system like this in a healthcare setting.
One of the biggest ones was definitely ensuring data privacy and security,
Oh, of course, yeah.
especially when you're dealing with sensitive patient information.
Right, because you've got IPay and all those regulations.
Absolutely. Patient confidentiality is paramount in healthcare.
Yeah.
So they had to implement, really strict security protocols, make sure they're complying with all the regulations.
So it's not just about the technology, it's also about the ethics
It is, yeah,
of using that technology responsibly.
exactly. And another challenge was integrating the new system
Okay.
with their existing IT infrastructure.
Right, because hospitals often have a mix of old and new systems.
They do.
It's not always easy to make everything work together.
It's not. It's not. So, they had to find ways to bridge that gap between the old and the new.
So it's that integration challenge again. It seems like it's a recurring theme
It does seem that way, yeah.
in a lot of these implementations.
It's just common hurdle.
And so by overcoming these challenges, they were able to create a system that's not only technologically advanced,
Yeah.
but also patient-centric
Yes.
and ethically sound.
Exactly.
It's a great example of how technology can be used to improve lives while also respecting human values.
That's what it's all about.
It's really inspiring, but I know we have a lot more ground to cover.
We do.
So let's move on.
Okay.
You mentioned agriculture earlier. I'm curious to learn more about how AI and IoT are being used to improve farming practices.
Okay, so let's take a little trip to the countryside, shall we?
All right, let's go.
This report highlights a large-scale farming operation, actually in Brazil,
Okay.
that implemented a precision agriculture system.
Precision agriculture. I've heard that term. What does it actually mean?
So it's about using technology to optimize every aspect of farming, from planting and irrigation to fertilization, pest control, you name it.
Wow, so they're using data and analytics to actually make smarter decisions and improve their yield.
That's exactly it. And they're doing it on a massive scale. This operation covers over 50,000 hectares of land.
50,000. That's huge.
It's a lot of land. And they're using all sorts of technology.
Okay, like what?
Soil sensors, weather stations, satellite imagery, even autonomous farming equipment.
Wow, so they're bringing the power of big data and automation to the farm.
They are, and then using AI to analyze all that data and make real-time adjustments to their practices.
So what kind of data are they collecting? And how are they actually using it to optimize their operations?
Okay, so those soil sensors,
Yeah.
they provide real-time data on moisture levels,
Yeah.
nutrient content,
Okay.
pH levels.
So they really know what's going on in the soil.
They do. And then the weather stations.
Yeah.
Those are monitoring temperature, humidity, wind speed, rainfall.
So they have a complete picture of the weather conditions.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And then the satellite imagery.
Okay, what do they use that for?
That gives them this bird's eye view of the crops, you know?
Okay.
So they can detect problems early on.
Oh, that's smart.
Like if there's a disease spreading or if a certain area isn't getting enough water.
So they can intervene early?
Exactly. And then the autonomous equipment.
Okay, what does that do?
It handles tasks like planting, spraying, harvesting.
Wow, all automated.
Yeah, with incredible precision.
So they have a really comprehensive understanding of their crops, their environment, and they're using all that information to make these data-driven decisions.
That's what it's all about.
And I'm guessing it's having a pretty significant impact on their bottom line.
Oh, yeah. So they've seen a 22% increase in crop yield.
Wow, that's a huge increase.
It is, and a 35% reduction in water usage.
So they're saving water, which is huge.
Yeah, especially in a place like Brazil where water can be scarce. And they've decreased fertilizer consumption by 28%.
Wow, so they're not only producing more food, but they're doing it with fewer resources.
And a smaller environmental impact.
Exactly. And that's really important.
It is, yeah. They've also been able to reduce their pest-related losses by 40%.
So they're protecting their crops.
Yep. It's pretty amazing what they've been able to achieve.
Yeah, it really is. It sounds like they're making farming more efficient, more sustainable.
And more profitable.
At the same time, it's a win-win-win situation.
It is. But implementing a system like this, in a rural environment, it has its own set of challenges.
Oh, I bet.
One of the biggest ones, connectivity.
All right.
Ensuring a reliable internet connection in those remote areas.
Because you can't have a smart farm without a good internet connection.
No, we can't.
So how did they overcome that challenge?
Well, they had to invest in really robust networking infrastructure.
Okay.
And they explored, more innovative solutions, and they explored, more innovative solutions like satellite internet to make sure that data was flowing consistently.
So it's like building a digital highway.
Yeah.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Another challenge was integrating those new technologies with their existing equipment.
Right.
A lot of it was older.
Yeah. Not really designed for digital connectivity.
No.
That integration challenge.
Yeah.
It seems to be a recurring theme in these AI-IoT implementations.
It is. You're right. Yeah.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole sometimes.
It is. And so they had to, get creative, develop custom interfaces, adapters to bridge the gap between the old and the new.
So it's about finding ways to make the technology work for them.
Yes.
Rather than trying to force their operations to fit the technology.
Exactly. And by overcoming these challenges, they were able to create this truly smart farm.
That's more productive, but also more sustainable.
Yes.
And resilient.
Yeah.
It's a great example of how technology can be used to really empower farmers.
Absolutely.
And make agriculture, more efficient and sustainable for the future.
It's really inspiring, isn't it?
It is. You mentioned smart cities earlier.
Yes.
I'm really interested in learning how AI and IoT are being used to improve urban environments.
Okay, let's head to the city. This report highlights it's major metropolitan area in Asia that implemented this smart city platform.
Okay.
powered by, you guessed it, AI and IoT.
Okay, what were they trying to achieve with this platform?
So they wanted to optimize urban transportation
Okay.
and create a more livable environment.
Making the city work better for the people who live there.
Yeah, exactly. So they started by integrating data from, well, you name it, traffic cameras, vehicle sensors, public transportation systems.
Oh, wow. They're really pulling data from everywhere.
They are, even weather monitors and social media feeds.
Wow. So they have a really comprehensive view of what's happening in the city.
That's right, a real-time pulse of the city.
Okay, so they've got all this data. What are they doing with it?
Well, they're using AI
Okay.
to analyze it
Uh-huh.
and make real-time adjustments to things like traffic flow,
Okay.
public transportation schedules, even emergency response routes.
So they're using technology to make the city more efficient,
Yes.
more responsive to what's happening,
Absolutely.
and ultimately more resilient.
Exactly, yeah. And they're doing this on a massive scale. We're talking managing traffic for over 10 million residents.
10 million. Wow, that's a lot of people.
It is. And then, optimizing public transportation for like over 5 million daily commuters.
Those are some impressive numbers.
They are. It's like they've created this central nervous system for the entire city.
I love that analogy.
Right.
So they've got all these different systems working together seamlessly.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of results have they actually seen?
Well, they've reduced average commute times by 27%.
Wow, I bet the commuters are happy about that.
They are. They also decreased traffic-related incidents
Okay.
by 35%.
So they're making the roads safer
Yeah.
as well as more efficient.
Exactly. And get this, they even lowered vehicle emissions
Okay.
by 18%.
So it's better for the environment too.
Yeah, it is.
Wow, this is really impressive.
It is. But maybe even more impressive, they improved emergency response times
Okay, how much?
by 42%.
That's incredible.
It is, yeah.
In those situations, every minute counts.
It does.
So they're potentially saving lives by getting emergency responders to the scene faster.
Exactly. Yeah. They've created a truly smart city.
So it's more efficient, responsive, sustainable, and resilient.
That's it.
All thanks to the power of AI and IoT.
That's right.
It's a great example of how technology can be used to improve the quality of life for millions of people.
It is.
But I'm sure creating a smart city like this, it's not without its challenges.
Oh, no, there are challenges for sure. I think one of the biggest ones was coordinating all the different stakeholders involved.
Right, because you've got government agencies,
Yeah.
private companies,
Yeah,
community groups.
absolutely. And they all need to work together.
Yeah, it's a massive collaborative effort.
It is. So they had to build consensus.
Okay.
Establish those clear communication channels.
Make sure everyone's on the same page.
That's right. Working towards those shared goals. It's like conducting an orchestra.
Oh, yeah, I like
And
that.
you need to make sure everyone's playing in harmony.
To create beautiful music.
That's right. And then there's the whole issue of data privacy and security.
Right, because a smart city is collecting a lot of data about its residents.
A lot of data, yeah.
And it's important to protect that information
Absolutely, yeah.
from misuse or abuse.
That's right. So they had to implement, those strict security protocols and data anonymization techniques.
Okay, what's data anonymization?
It's a way of protecting people's privacy by removing any personally identifiable information from the data.
So you can still use the data for analysis and decision-making,
Yes,
but you're not compromising anyone's privacy.
exactly.
So it's not just about making the city smarter, it's about making it more ethical
Yes, it's about being responsible with that data.
and responsible with the technology.
Yes.
So it's a great example of how technology can be used to create a better future
Yes.
for everyone, not just a select few.
Absolutely. Now we've talked about manufacturing, healthcare, agriculture, and smart cities.
Okay.
Any other industries you'd like to look at?
Yeah, you mentioned energy earlier.
Yes.
I'd love to learn how AI and IoT are improving energy efficiency and, modernizing the grid.
Okay, let's delve into the world of energy. This report talks about a European utility company. They implemented a smart grid management system powered by, AI and IoT.
Okay, so what does the smart grid actually do? How is it different from a traditional grid?
Well, a smart grid is more dynamic. It's able to respond to changes in real time. So for this utility company, they were able to integrate data from, Smart meters, grid sensors, weather stations, renewable energy sources.
Oh, wow. So they have a really complete picture of what's happening on the grid.
Exactly, yeah. They can see both the supply and the demand.
And they're using that information to make smarter decisions about how to manage the grid.
Absolutely. So they're using AI to analyze all that data and make real-time adjustments.
To what specifically?
Things like power distribution, load balancing, even energy pricing.
Oh, wow. So it's a very dynamic system.
It is, yeah.
It's constantly adjusting to what's happening in real time.
Exactly. And by doing that, they've been able to achieve some pretty impressive results.
Okay, I'm curious.
Well, they've reduced power outages
Okay.
by 25%.
That's a big improvement.
Yeah, the customers are pretty happy about that. And they've also improved renewable energy integration.
Okay, so they're making the grid more sustainable.
That's right, by 30%.
That's significant.
Yeah. And then they also achieved a 15% reduction in peak load demand.
So they're smoothing out those spikes in demand.
Yeah, exactly.
Which helps stabilize the grid and keep costs down.
That's it. And in fact, they saw a 20% reduction in their operational costs.
Wow, so it's a win-win situation for the utility company and the customers.
It is. It really is.
They're providing a more reliable and sustainable service while also saving money.
Absolutely.
It's a great example of how technology can modernize critical infrastructure.
Yeah.
And create a more sustainable energy future.
It is.
But I'm sure implementing a smart grid system like this, it must come with its own set of challenges.
Oh, for sure. I think, cybersecurity was definitely a top concern.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You're dealing with critical infrastructure here.
Right.
The power grid.
People could try to disrupt it?
Exactly. So they had to implement all these, really robust security protocols,
Okay, so they're taking security very serious.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then, you guessed it, there's the integration challenge.
Again, it seems like no matter what industry you're in,
Yeah.
you can't escape the integration challenge.
Yeah, you can't. They had a mix of legacy systems and new technologies. And then another big one was data privacy, right?
Oh, right, because smart meters are collecting a lot of data
They are, yeah.
about people's energy consumption patterns.
Exactly. So they had to make sure they were protecting that information.
So it's not just about making the grid smarter.
Uh-huh.
It's about making it ethical.
It is, yeah.
And respecting people's privacy.
Exactly. And by, addressing those challenges head on, they were able to create this smart grid.
Okay.
That's not only more efficient and sustainable,
but also secure and respectful of people's privacy.
It is, yeah. It's a great example of how technology can be used to improve critical infrastructure.
And that it can be done in a way that upholds ethical principles
Good hand.
and social responsibility.
That's the way to go. Now, we've covered manufacturing, healthcare, agriculture, smart cities, and energy.
Yeah.
One more industry example before we move on, okay?
Okay, hit me with it.
Logistics and supply chain management.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah, isn't it?
Supply chains are becoming so complex these days.
They are.
I can only imagine the role that AI and IoT are playing in making them more efficient and reliable.
Right. And this report highlights a global logistics provider that used AI and IoT to optimize their warehouse operations and delivery routing.
So they're streamlining the whole process.
They are, yeah. They integrated data from all sorts of places, warehouse sensors, delivery vehicles.
Okay, so they know where everything is.
Exactly. Inventory systems.
Okay.
Customer orders.
Oh, wow. So they have a real-time view of the entire supply chain.
Yeah, they do. From the warehouse all the way to the customer's doorstep.
It's like having a digital twin.
Yeah.
Of the entire supply chain.
Of the entire supply chain.
That's amazing.
And they're using AI to analyze all this data and optimize everything from picking and packing in the warehouse to delivery routes, scheduling, you name it.
So it's not just about making individual parts of the supply chain more efficient. It's about optimizing the whole thing.
Yeah, end-to-end optimization. That's what they're going for.
And what kind of impact has that had?
Well, they've reduced warehouse picking times.
Okay.
By 38%.
Wow, that's a huge improvement.
Yeah. That means those orders are getting out the door a lot faster, and they've decreased their delivery delays by 25%.
Okay, so they're more reliable.
Yes.
Which is really important.
Yeah, customer satisfaction, right?
Absolutely. Customers want their stuff on time.
They do. And they also improve their inventory accuracy by 30%.
Oh, wow.
So less waste,
Right, less waste, more efficiency.
Exactly. And a 22% reduction in their transportation costs.
So it's better for the environment.
Yeah,
It's saving them money.
it is.
And it's improving their customer service.
That's what we like to see. It's all thanks to the power of AI and IoT.
It really is a great example
It is.
of how those technologies are transforming supply chains,
Absolutely.
making them more efficient, responsive, and resilient to disruptions.
That's a game changer.
It is, but implementing a system like this
Yeah.
across a global supply chain, that can't be easy.
It's not easy, no. I think, one of the biggest challenges is managing that complexity.
Right, because we're talking about a global operation.
We are.
Data flowing across multiple continents.
Exactly. You got to make sure it's all consistent.
Yeah, and you've got to integrate
Yeah.
with different systems in different countries.
It's a big job. So they had to really invest in, those robust data management platforms.
Okay.
Standardized processes to manage all that complexity.
So it's like conducting a global orchestra.
Hmm.
You've got all these different instruments playing.
Yeah.
You got to make sure they're all reading from the same sheet music.
That's it.
Okay, and then what about security? I imagine that's a big concern when you're dealing with a global supply chain.
Absolutely, because you've got, sensitive customer information,
Yeah.
financial transactions.
Can't have a smart supply chain without a secure supply chain.
You can't. So they had to implement, those strict security protocols, encryption, access controls,
Okay.
intrusion detection systems.
So they're really building a fortress around their digital supply chain.
They are. And then they also had to think about, the people side of things.
Oh, yeah, the human element.
The human element. Automation changes the nature of work in this industry.
Yeah, some jobs might be lost.
Some jobs might be lost, yeah, but new jobs will be created.
So it's about adapting to this new landscape.
Adapting and retraining, yeah. And communicating with the employees,
Okay, so they're being transparent about the changes.
Absolutely. And investing in their workforce.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about managing the impact
Yeah.
of that technology on people.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a really great example
It is.
of how you can implement these technologies in a way that's both efficient and ethical.
It is. Now we've explored so many industries, right? Manufacturing, healthcare,
Yeah.
agriculture, smart cities, energy.
Yeah. A lot of different areas where AI and IoT are making a big impact.
They are. And I think it's, I'm curious to hear about some of the underlying trends, like the technologies driving all this.
Yeah. I'm fascinated by that too. What are some of the key trends that are shaping the future of AI IoT convergence?
Okay, well, the report actually goes into one of the most exciting developments in this space. It's called Edge AI.
Oh, yeah. Edge AI. I've heard that term. I'm still not quite sure I understand what it is or why it's so important.
So think of it like, the next evolution of AI IoT systems.
Okay.
It's about bringing intelligence closer to the data source rather than relying on the cloud for everything.
So instead of sending all the data to the cloud, you're processing it right there at the edge where it's being generated.
You got it. And there are several key benefits to this that they highlight in the report.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
Well, one of the biggest benefits is reduced latency.
Okay.
So you can process data in real time without those delays, the sending it to the cloud and back.
Right, because sometimes you need those decisions to happen instantaneously.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And Edge AI can reduce latency
Okay.
to under 10 milliseconds.
Wow, that's incredible fast.
It is, it is.
So that opens up a whole new world of possibilities for applications that need those super fast responses,
It does, yeah.
like autonomous systems or industrial safety controls or even real-time fraud detection.
Exactly. And then another big benefit is enhanced privacy.
Right, because you're not sending that sensitive data to the cloud
No.
where it could potentially be compromised.
Exactly. So by processing it locally, you minimize that risk of data breaches
Okay.
and ensure you are complying with all those privacy regulations.
That's especially important, I think, in industries like healthcare, finance, where privacy is paramount.
Absolutely.
So you're getting the benefits of AI without sacrificing security or privacy.
Exactly. And the report actually says that Edge AI can reduce data privacy risks
Okay.
by up to 60%.
Wow, that's significant.
It is.
So it's a win-win situation.
It is. It's faster and it's more secure. And those are just two of the many benefits.
Okay, so what are some of the other benefits of Edge AI?
Well, it also reduces bandwidth consumption.
Okay.
It improves reliability.
Right, because you're not relying on a connection to the cloud.
Exactly.
So if the internet goes down, your system can still function.
Yes. And it enables all these new use cases that, just wouldn't be possible with cloud-only systems.
It's like opening up a whole new world of possibilities.
It is. Edge AI is a game changer. It really is.
I'm convinced.
Good. And the report actually predicts that the global market for Edge AI is going to grow a lot, from $1.2 billion in 2023 to $8.5 billion by 2027.
Wow, that's huge growth.
It is. So everybody's recognizing the importance of this technology.
So it's not just hype, it's actually happening.
It's happening, and it's being driven by, advances in hardware, better AI algorithms.
And of course, all those use cases that need real-time processing at the edge.
Exactly.
So it's all coming together at the right time.
It is. But of course, there are always challenges, right? With any new technology.
So what are some of the challenges that organizations need to be aware of when implementing edge AI systems?
Well, complexity is definitely one. You've got all these edge devices spread out, and managing that can be tricky.
So you need really good tools for managing those distributed systems.
You do. And the report talks about the need for sophisticated orchestration systems.
Orchestration systems?
Yeah, to manage the distribution of AI models.
Okay.
Updates across all those edge devices. It's like conducting an orchestra.
I like that analogy. So you're making sure all those edge devices are playing in sync.
Exactly. And they actually say that, effective edge orchestration can reduce management overhead by 40%.
Wow, that's significant.
And it can improve system reliability by 25%.
So it's not just about the technology itself.
Yeah.
It's about having the right tools and the right processes in place.
Exactly.
To manage it effectively.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so complexity is one challenge.
Yeah.
What are some of the other challenges with edge AI?
Well, there's ensuring security across that whole distributed network.
Right, because you've got all these different devices. Each one's a potential point of vulnerability.
Yeah, and then optimizing those AI models so they can actually be deployed
at the edge.
Right. And then, managing the life cycle of those models.
So it's not just about developing the models, it's about keeping them up to date.
Absolutely.
Making sure they're still performing well.
And then, retiring them when they're no longer needed.
It's a whole life cycle.
It is.
Okay, so implementing edge AI, it requires a different mindset than just traditional cloud-based AI.
It does. And a different set of skills.
So is this just for large organizations?
Okay.
With deep pockets and technical expertise?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
While it's definitely challenging, there are tools and platforms out there that are making edge AI more accessible.
So smaller organizations can take advantage of it as well.
They can, absolutely. And the report actually talks about some emerging technologies that are going to push the boundaries of edge AI even further.
Oh, I love hearing about new technologies. Tell me about those.
Okay. One of the most exciting is neuromorphic computing.
Neuromorphic computing. That sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It does, doesn't it?
What exactly is it?
It's about developing new chip architectures that are inspired by, biological neural networks.
So they're mimicking the way our brains work.
That's it. And they're promising some pretty huge improvements in energy efficiency.
Okay, how much?
We're talking up to 1,000 times.
1,000 times. That's incredible.
It is, yeah.
So you could have these tiny little AI chips running on very little power.
Exactly. Think about, remote sensors, low power devices.
Even implantable medical devices.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. And then there's 5G and 6G networks, of course.
Right, because the faster speeds and lower latency are going to be crucial for edge AI, right?
They are. They're going to enable these new use cases that we can't even imagine yet.
It's all about creating a more connected and intelligent world.
That's what it's all about. And the report even talks about some early experimentation with quantum edge computing.
Quantum edge computing. That sounds incredibly futuristic.
It is.
I can barely wrap my head around that.
I know. It's a lot. It's still early days, but they're saying that, quantum processors at the edge could potentially enable all these complex calculations that are just, impossible for classical computers today.
Wow. So this is really pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
It is, yeah. And the report outlines some pretty amazing future directions.
Okay, like what?
Like autonomous edge systems, collaborative edge intelligence.
Collaborative, so they're working together.
They are, yeah. And adaptive edge architectures.
It sounds like something out of a science fiction movie.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But they're becoming more realistic as technology keeps evolving.
It's really exciting, but I have to admit, it's also a little bit overwhelming to think about all the possibilities. But let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about something a little more practical. We've seen how AI and IoT are transforming all these industries.
Yeah.
But how do organizations actually implement these technologies effectively?
Right. That's the key question, right? Because technology is only as good as the people who use it. And this report gives this like really great guide to implementation strategies and best practices.
Okay, I'm eager to hear about those.
Right.
What are some of the key steps organizations need to take to ensure successful implementation?
Well, they start by emphasizing this assessment and planning framework.
Right, so you have to understand where you are,
Yeah,
what your goals are,
absolutely.
what the potential challenges are before you even start.
Exactly. And they actually say, that organizations conducting like thorough assessments, they're 2.5 times more likely to achieve their goals.
Wow, that's a big difference.
It is. And they typically complete projects like 40% faster.
So planning really does pay off.
It does, yeah.
Okay, so what does a good assessment and planning framework actually look like?
Well, you got to start by understanding your business goals, right?
Yeah, because technology is just a tool.
That's it.
It's not a solution in itself. So what are you trying to achieve with this technology?
Exactly. And once you know that, you have to kind of like assess your current state, right?
Yeah.
What data do you have? What systems are you using?
What are your existing capabilities?
Exactly.
It's like taking inventory of what you've got.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then what's next?
Well, then you got to think about those potential challenges and risks.
Right. You're not just focusing on the positive outcomes.
No.
You're also thinking about the things that could go wrong.
Exactly, yeah.
It's about being realistic and proactive
Yeah.
in addressing those potential roadblocks.
Exactly.
So once you've got a plan in place, then what?
Then you got to build the team.
Then you got to build the team.
You got to build the team. You need the right people.
Right.
With the right skills.
Okay.
To make this happen.
So it's not something you can just do in isolation. You need a team of experts.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And they recommend in the report like a cross-functional team.
Okay, what does that mean? What kind of people are we talking about?
So you need your technical leads, business analysts, domain experts,
Right.
change management people.
Change management.
Oh, yeah. Security experts, you got to have those. Data scientists, of course. Project managers to keep everything running smoothly.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
It is. But the key is making sure everyone on the team understands those goals.
Right.
And how their role contributes.
So it's not just about having the right people, it's about making sure they're working together effectively.
Absolutely. Communication is key. Collaboration.
Shared sense of purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a strong project manager is essential too.
Right.
Keep the project on track. Manage the resources.
Communicate progress. Address any issue.
So they're like the conductor of the orchestra, making sure everyone is in sync.
Yeah, love that analogy. Okay, so you've got the right team in place. Now what?
Okay, now you got to think about implementation, right?
Right.
And they recommend starting with a pilot project.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. You don't want to go all in right away. You want to start small, test the waters, learn from your mistakes before you scale up.
Exactly. It's like dip your toes in the pool.
Okay.
Before you jump in head first.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. And the pilot project allows you to, validate your approach, gather some data, see how things are working, refine your processes, and build confidence.
Okay, yeah, so it's a learning phase.
It is.
You're experimenting. You're refining your approach.
Exactly. And then you build momentum, you get people excited about the possibilities and demonstrate those early wins.
So it's not just about the technical aspects, but also about getting people on board.
Absolutely. And then once you've got a successful pilot, you can start thinking about scaling up to a larger implementation. But scaling can be tricky,
Yeah.
You got to make sure your systems, your processes can actually handle that increased complexity.
So what are some of the key considerations when you're scaling up an AI-IoT implementation?
Okay, well, first you have to think about both the technical side of things and the organizational side.
Okay, let's break those down.
Yeah.
What are the technical aspects of scaling?
Well, you need to make sure your infrastructure can scale, right?
Yeah.
Can your systems handle the increased data flow, the processing demands as you expand?
Right, because you don't want your system to crash when you start adding more devices and more users.
Exactly, yeah. And then there's performance optimization. As the system grows, you got to make sure it's still performing well.
Okay, so you need to fine-tune things.
You do. And security, that's huge. As you scale, you're increasing the attack surface, so you need to bolster those security measures.
It's like expanding your house, right?
Yeah.
You need to make sure you've got enough locks
Yes.
on the doors and windows to keep everyone safe.
That's a great analogy. And then there are integration requirements, you know?
Yeah, you're connecting to more systems
You are.
as you scale up.
You are.
So you have to have a good integration strategy. Okay, so those are the technical aspects. What about the organizational side?
Okay, on the organizational side,
Yeah.
one of the big ones is process standardization.
Okay.
So you need to make sure that as you scale up, everyone's doing things the same way.
Right. Consistent processes, clear procedures.
Absolutely. And training, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Training's important.
You need to make sure people know how to use the system
Right.
effectively.
You can't just throw technology at people
No,
and expect them to figure it out.
exactly. Invest in those training programs. Create a culture of continuous learning.
So it's about empowering people, not just automating processes.
That's it. That's it.
Okay. And then there's this idea of cultural transformation. Right.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
What does that mean in the context of AI-IoT?
It's about creating a culture, you know, that embraces innovation, data-driven decision-making.
So it's about changing the way people think and work.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a more holistic approach, considering both the technical aspects and the human aspects of the implementation.
Yeah, you need both. And the report mentions that organizations with, like, comprehensive scaling plans, they achieve full implementation 45% faster and report 30% fewer issues.
So it's worth it.
It's worth it.
To invest the time and effort upfront.
Absolutely. And we can't forget about change management, right?
Oh, yeah, that's crucial.
You can have the best technology in the world,
Yeah.
but if people aren't on board,
Right.
the whole thing can fall apart.
It won't be successful.
No, it won't.
Yeah.
And so in the report, they really emphasize communication, you know, talking to people.
Okay, like what specifically?
Well, you got to engage stakeholders early on. Keep that dialogue open.
Okay, so you're not just telling people what's happening, you're actually listening to them.
You've got to listen, absolutely. Address their concern.
Be transparent.
It's about creating that sense of ownership, you know,
Yeah.
shared purpose.
So everyone feels like they're part of the solution,
Exactly. Yeah.
not just subject to the technology.
Exactly. And training is huge.
Yeah, training is important.
People need the support
Right.
to learn how to use these systems effectively.
And it's not just about the initial training.
No,
It's about ongoing support, right?
absolutely. Continuous learning, you know,
Yeah.
knowledge sharing.
So you're creating a culture of continuous learning and adaptation.
That's it. That's it.
Okay, so we've talked about the planning, the team building, the implementation, the scaling, the
Yeah.
change management.
Yeah.
What about timelines? Like, how long does all this actually take?
Okay, so the report actually gives a typical timeline
Okay.
for these enterprise-level AI IoT implementations.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Well, you say the whole process usually takes about 18 to 24 months.
18 to 24 months. Wow. So this is not a quick fix.
No, no. It's a long-term commitment.
It takes time.
It takes time, and you got to do it right. And they have different phases, you know, for each stage of the implementation.
Okay, so walk me through those phases. What happens in each phase?
Okay, so the first 3 months are all about assessment and planning. So you're evaluating your readiness, you know, you're putting together the team, you're developing that overall strategy.
So you're laying the groundwork for success
Absolutely.
during those first few months.
Exactly. Then the next 3 months, that's your pilot implementation.
Okay.
So that's where you're testing the waters, gathering the data, making those adjustments, and showing those early wins to get people excited.
So you're building momentum during that phase.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you move into the scaling phase, right?
Okay.
That usually takes place, you know, between months 7 and 12. Yeah.
Okay, so you're expanding the implementation.
You are. You're standardizing those processes, expanding the infrastructure, rolling out the training programs.
Okay, so that can be a really challenging phase.
It can be.
You're dealing with increased complexity.
You are, yeah.
You're managing change across a much wider scope.
Exactly. So you got to have a good plan.
Yeah.
And a good team
Absolutely.
to execute it.
Okay, so what happens after the scaling phase?
All right, so the final phase goes all the way through month 24.
Okay.
And that's where you're focusing on, you know, enterprise-wide deployment, optimization, cultural transformation.
So it's about making sure the technology is truly integrated into the organization
Yeah,
and becomes part of the everyday workflow.
exactly. And it keeps delivering value over time, you know?
Right, you don't want to just implement it and then forget about it.
No, no. And so they talk about, in the report, governance, you know, making sure you have those processes in place
Okay.
for continuous improvement.
So you're constantly evaluating how the system's working,
Yeah.
making adjustments as needed to keep it running smoothly and efficiently.
Exactly. They recommend doing these regular reviews
Okay.
to look at the costs, the benefits,
Okay.
make those timely adjustments.
So you're maximizing that value creation.
That's right. It's all about continuous improvement.
Okay, so it's a long-term commitment.
It is. It's not just a one-time project.
It's about ongoing effort
Yeah.
to keep optimizing those systems.
And, those efforts pay off. They typically result in, improvements of 15% to 20% in the long-term ROI.
Compared to just setting it up
Yeah.
and forgetting about it.
Exactly.
So it's worth it
It's worth it.
to take that proactive approach.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about implementation strategies, best practices, but, at the end of the day, it all comes down to ROI, right?
It does. It does. And the report talks about the economic side of AI-IoT integration, which, goes beyond just cutting costs.
Right. It's not just about saving money. It's about creating new value, new opportunities for businesses.
Exactly. And they give a framework, for evaluating investments, measuring those returns. And they look at both, the financial returns and those less tangible benefits.
The qualitative benefits, right?
So qualitative benefits, yeah.
So what are some of the costs that organizations need to consider when they're implementing these solutions?
Okay, so you've got, the hardware. That's a big one. IoT sensors, edge computing devices, networking equipment, data center resources.
Right. You have the physical infrastructure.
You do. And that can be, a pretty significant chunk of the initial investment.
How much we're talking?
They're saying on average 30% to 40% of the project cost.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. And then you've got software.
Okay, software, yeah.
AI development, integration software, security implementations, all that good stuff.
Right, because you need the software to make sense of all that data and make it work for you.
Exactly. And that can be another 25% to 35% of the budget.
So significant investment in both hardware and software.
There is. And then you got to factor in maintenance, right? Updates. That can be another 15% to 20% annually.
So it's not just a one-time cost, it's an ongoing expense.
Exactly. And then there's the cloud.
Okay.
Cloud service costs.
Right.
And that varies depending on your setup. But, for hybrid deployments, it's usually around 10% to 15% of the operating expenses.
Okay, so that's another factor to consider.
It is. But, I think one of the costs that people often forget about is human capital.
Right, because it's not just about the technology, it's about the people who are using it.
That's right.
And managing it.
You need the right people with the right skills. And that means, hiring specialists, training your existing staff.
And that takes time and resources.
It does. And they actually recommend budgeting, for training.
Okay.
5% to 10% of the total project cost.
Wow, so investing in your people is crucial.
It's essential.
Okay, so we've talked about the costs.
Yeah.
What about the returns? How do we actually measure the ROI of these AI-IoT initiatives?
Right. And that can be tricky.
Yeah.
Because you've got both the direct financial returns and then those indirect benefits, the ones that are harder to put a number on.
Okay, so what are some of the direct financial returns that organizations can expect?
Well, the most common are cost reduction, efficiency improvements, and revenue growth.
Okay, so let's start with cost reduction. How does AI-IoT help organizations save money?
Well, it all comes down to operational efficiency, right? When you implement these solutions, you see improvements there.
Right.
And they typically report average cost reductions of 15% to 25%.
That's significant.
It is. And that comes from, lower energy consumption, lower maintenance costs, making sure you're using those resources effectively.
So it's about streamlining operations, making things more efficient.
Exactly. And in addition, saving money, you're also improving efficiency.
So they're doing more.
Yes.
With the same resources.
Exactly. And the report says they often see productivity improvements around 20% to 30%.
Wow, that's a big jump.
It is. It is. And that's within the first 2 years.
So it's not like it takes forever to see those results.
No, you see them pretty quickly. And so what are the things that contribute to that, right? Well, automation.
Yeah.
Streamlining processes, better decision-making. Like in manufacturing, you can optimize those production schedules, reduce downtime, improve quality control.
So it's not just about working harder, it's about working smarter.
That's it, yeah.
And those efficiency gains can actually lead to revenue growth as well, right?
Absolutely.
So it's like a virtuous cycle,
Yeah.
Efficiency leads to innovation, which ultimately leads to increased profitability.
Exactly. And they talk about in the report, organizations improving their product quality,
Okay.
reducing that time to market,
Okay.
even creating entirely new service offerings.
Okay.
using AI-IoT.
So it's not just about improving existing operations, but creating new opportunities for growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And they actually say in the report for manufacturing that they see revenue increases of 5% to 8% from those quality improvements. And then those new service offerings,
Yeah.
they can add another 10% to 15% on top of that.
Those are some big numbers. It sounds like AI IoT can have a really significant impact on a company's bottom line.
It can, yeah. But it's not just about those direct financial returns. There are those indirect benefits.
Right, the things that are harder to measure,
Yeah.
but just as important.
The report talks about, customer satisfaction, better market positioning, regulatory compliance, organizational agility.
So all those things that contribute to the long-term health of an organization. But how do you measure those less tangible benefits?
It's definitely tricky, but there are ways, right? You can track customer satisfaction through surveys, get feedback.
Okay, so you're gathering data.
Yeah, you are. You can assess your market position, by looking at market share,
Right.
brand perception,
Okay.
regulatory compliance, you've got your audits, your certifications,
Yeah.
and organizational agility. You can see how quickly they adapt to changes, right?
Okay, so while it might not be easy to put a specific dollar amount on these benefits,
Right.
you can still track them and understand how they contribute to the overall success of the AI IoT implementation.
Exactly, yeah. Now, we've talked about, the costs, the benefits, but how does AI IoT actually create value? What are the mechanisms?
Right, because it's not just about implementing the technology and then hoping for the best.
No.
There are specific ways that AI IoT can actually drive value.
Yeah, and they outline three main ones in this report.
Okay, I'm interested to hear about those.
Okay, so the first one is operational excellence.
Okay, operational excellence. What does that mean?
So it's about improving efficiency, optimizing resource use, or, getting the most out of those assets.
Okay.
And they say for manufacturing that they often see significant improvements in equipment effectiveness,
Okay, by how much?
like 15 to 20%.
Wow.
Yeah, and then lower maintenance costs 25% to 30% by using, predictive maintenance programs.
So AI IoT is helping them do more with less,
That's it.
make their operations more efficient, more streamlined.
Exactly.
Okay, what's the second mechanism for value creation?
The second one is innovation acceleration.
Okay, so this is about using technology to speed up the innovation process, right?
That's it, yeah.
Develop new products faster.
Yeah. They can test them more effectively, get that market feedback quickly, and they're seeing reductions in the report, like 30% to 40% reduction in their product development cycles.
Wow, that's a big difference.
It is.
And it can really help companies stay ahead of the competition.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the third value creation mechanism?
The third one is customer experience enhancement.
Oh, yeah, that's huge these days.
It is. Everyone's competing on customer experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how does AI IoT help organizations improve their customer experience?
Well, you can provide, more personalized services,
Okay.
proactive support,
Okay.
improve the functionality of your products.
So it's about using technology to really put the customer at the center of everything.
That's right, yeah.
What kind of results are companies seeing in terms of customer experience enhancement?
They're seeing customer satisfaction improvements, 20% to 25%, and increases in that customer lifetime value, like 15% to 20%.
So not only are customers happier, they're also more loyal and more valuable to the company over the long term.
Absolutely. Now, we've talked about those value creation mechanisms,
Yeah.
but, you got to have that strong business case,
Right.
to justify the investment, right? Show that return on investment.
Exactly. You need to be able to make the case for why this is a good idea.
Yeah, and the report gives some great tips.
Okay, what are some of the key things to keep in mind when you're building that business case for AI IoT?
All right, well, first and foremost, you got to be able to explain how it connects with the big picture,
Okay.
like the strategic objectives of the organization.
So it's not just about implementing the technology.
No.
It's about showing how it supports
Yeah,
the overall goals of the company.
that's it, yeah. And that's crucial because, some of these projects, they have a longer payback period,
Okay.
but they offer really significant strategic value.
So it's about thinking long term,
Yeah, yeah.
not just about those immediate financial returns.
Absolutely.
Okay, what else?
Financial modeling.
Okay, financial modeling. What does that involve?
So you got to look at different scenarios, right?
Yeah.
Different timelines, different rates of return.
So you're creating different models to account for all the different possibilities.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. What else?
You got to do your risk assessment.
Oh, risk assessment, yeah.
That's huge. No project is without risks.
Right. So you need to identify those risks and address them proactively.
Absolutely, yeah. So they talk about in the report things like implementation delays,
Okay.
cost overruns, benefits falling short.
So it's about thinking through all the things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
And having a plan in place to deal with those potential problems.
That's it, yeah.
Okay, so even with a strong business case, you still need to have effective cost management strategies.
Oh, absolutely.
To make sure that you're actually getting the most out of that investment.
You do, yeah.
So what are some strategies for keeping costs under control?
All right, well, one of the big ones is stage deployment.
Okay, staged deployment. What does that mean?
So you're not doing everything all at once, right?
You're taking a more incremental approach.
Exactly.
Start small, build on your successes.
That's it. It's less risky that way.
Okay.
And you learn along the way, right?
Makes sense.
And they say in the report that this approach, it typically reduces risk and improves ROI by, 20% to 30%.
Wow, that's significant.
It is, yeah.
So it's a smarter way to implement these systems.
Absolutely. And then cloud optimization.
Oh, yeah, cloud services.
Yeah, they can be a big expense.
They can.
So you got to, have a good strategy for managing those costs.
So how do you optimize your cloud spending?
Well, they recommend, having policies for data retention.
Okay.
Where you're processing the data, edge versus cloud.
Right.
Service levels, making sure you're not paying for more than you need.
Right. So it's about being strategic and thoughtful about your cloud usage.
Absolutely. And then governance,
Okay.
You got to have that oversight.
Right.
Keep track of the costs and make sure, they don't spiral out of control.
So it's about having those checks and balances in place.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
They recommend in the report these regular reviews, Look at the costs, look at the benefits, make sure you're getting the value you expected.
So it's about having that continuous improvement mindset.
Yeah, always be optimizing.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the practicalities of AI and IoT convergence.
Yeah.
But I think it's also important to step back and think about the bigger picture.
Okay.
Like, what are the implications?
Yeah.
For society, for the economy, for the future of work?
Oh, absolutely. I think, this is a pretty fundamental shift.
It's a paradigm shift, yeah.
It is.
It's happening so fast.
It's incredible, the pace of change.
And one of the biggest questions I think people have is, what does it mean for humans?
Right.
As machines are becoming more intelligent, more autonomous.
Yeah, what's our role going to be?
Are the robots going to take all our jobs?
That's the big question, right?
It is.
And there's no easy answer. It's complex.
Yeah. I think it's probably more nuanced than, robots just replacing humans entirely.
Right. It's more about the types of jobs.
Right.
The skills that are going to be needed in the future.
So it's not about fearing the robots.
No.
It's about adapting to this change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Preparing for that future of work.
And that's what they talk about in the report, developing those new skills.
Yeah.
Embracing lifelong learning.
Okay, so what are some of the skills that are going to be in high demand in this AI IoT world?
Well, critical thinking,
Okay.
problem solving.
Okay.
Creativity.
Those are all very human skills.
They are, yeah. Communication skills.
Okay.
Being adaptable.
Being resilient.
Yeah.
Being comfortable working with technology.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's not just about the technical skills.
No, it's the soft skills too.
Right.
And the mindset.
Yeah, being open to learning.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's not just about the workplace either, right?
Oh.
I mean, AI and IoT are already having a huge impact on our personal lives.
They are.
From smart homes to wearables.
Yeah.
Connected cars, personalized healthcare. I mean, it's changing the way we live, the way we interact with each other.
It is, yeah.
And it's only going to accelerate.
It is.
It's both exciting and a little bit daunting to think about all the changes that are coming.
It is.
But I think it's important to remember that we're not just passive passengers on this journey.
No, no.
We have the power to shape how these technologies are used.
We do.
To make sure that they're used for good.